friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a video picked out by my patrons over on Patreon. They voted and this is the video that they wanted to see the most. If you want to have your say in my videos, you can join my Patreon, but literally no pressure ever to do that if you don't want to. But this video is about plants that I was influenced to buy from the internet, mostly Instagram, and whether or not that I think that they are worth the hype. Before I get into it, I want to say, if you're new here and you don't know me already, hi, my name is Emma and I make houseplanty content all over the internet. So if you want to follow along with my houseplanty journey and maybe learn something along the way, stick around, watch some more of my videos, and subscribe to my channel. If you're not new here, thanks for coming back. I really appreciate it. Let us get into these plants. So the first one is probably one of the biggest hyped plants, maybe of all time, the Philodendron Pink Princess. Back in like 2020 time, everybody wanted one of these, and only the cool people had them, and they were big and beautiful and had gorgeous swaths of pink on them, and I just wanted one so badly. And I actually got myself a couple of different ones back then, like tiny little plants for like 60-70 pounds. Yeah, they were going for a lot at that time. And I struggled with these small ones. They were not growing well for me, they were not sizing up, they weren't producing very good color, and so I was like, maybe I'll try to buy a bigger one. And by that time, they had gone down drastically in price, and I was able to find quite a large plant for only like 20 pounds, I'm pretty sure. And so I got that, and it did do a little bit better for me, but it still massively struggled in my care. Like it grew, and I was able to get it on a moss pole, and the coloration was okay, but I still could not get the thing to size up to save my life. I could not get it to look like these beautiful pink princesses that I was seeing on Instagram with lovely swaths of pink and big beautiful leaves. I just could not get it to happen. So I honestly think that the Pink Princess is overrated. Overrated. I have since gotten rid of mine, hence why I'm not showing you it right now. I've gotten rid of it, and I don't think I will ever get another one, even though they are much less expensive now. I think in general I'm not very much into pink plants, but I was hoping that this could be the exception to that if it grew well. But I have had absolutely no luck growing the Pink Princess in my collection at all. So definitely not worth the hype in my opinion. The next plant I want to talk about is the fern leaf cactus. And I'm pretty sure I saw this one for the first time in one of Wild Fern's wishlist plant videos, and I saw that she ended up getting one, and hers is gorgeous. Basically from the first time I saw it there, I knew that I needed to have one of these in my life because it is just so big and beautiful and runs down and has these beautiful mermaid tail kind of shaped leaves. Absolutely loved it. And eventually I was able to get myself one, and honestly, so worth the hype. So far I found that it's quite easy to grow this one, and although I've had some issues with pests on it, the leaves are like fairly big and broad, and so it's quite easy to find them. There's not really many places for pests to hide within the foliage, and so it's been quite easy to deal with and treat, and it's still putting out new growth even though it has been pesty throughout this time. So it's just a really good, chill, easy plant. And I am so happy that I was influenced to buy it, because it is everything to me. It has become one of my favorite plants, and I mean, I wouldn't have bought it had I not seen it online and been essentially influenced to buy it. But I am so glad that I was, and so glad that I own this beautiful thing. Like, even though it's been struggling a little bit, it has massively grown for me in the time I've had it, and so, I could just stare at this thing all day. Also, side note, sorry that all of my plants have these like water spots on them. They're sulfur spots from treating them, and it's just, I'm just dealing with it right now. Hopefully I'll be done fairly soon with sulfur treatments, please, because I am so over it. But even with the sulfur spots, I'm loving looking at this one and enjoying its beautiful growth. So highly recommend, if you were wondering whether or not you wanted to buy one, whether or not you wanted to be influenced by the internet to get one, I will influence you further. Get one. They're amazing. Up next, I'm going to be talking about the Monstera Thai constellation. Again, this is another one that has been hugely hyped online. You can see gorgeous, big, beautiful leaves of the Monstera with the little constellation-y speckles of cream variegation. And I wanted one so badly. And I did get one. I was able to get my hands on one a few years back now. And I think the jury is still out on this one. I'm still undecided about whether or not it is worth the hype. Like, I think it is an absolutely beautiful plant, and I've not had very many like issues with it in terms of pests. Oh, actually, I have had issues, not pests, but with root rot. This one has been struggling with root rot. But like foliage wise, it's been fine. It hasn't killed off many or any of these bottom leaves at all. Like, it's constantly just had them and been fine. But I have struggled with root rot with it, and the growth on it is so slow. It is probably one of my slowest growing plants, which you wouldn't think it, because I feel like in general Monsteras tend to be quite quick. This one for me has just been incredibly slow. And so while I think the ones online are stunning and I could stare at those all day, and I still really want one of those big beautiful Monstera Thai constellations, I don't feel like this one is filling that void. So maybe it's not worth the hype. Or is it? I don't know. I know they are becoming less expensive lately, so you might be able to get your hands on one for much cheaper soon, which is good. So maybe they are worth the hype, just not the price tag, because they are really cool. And if one day I can get this one to grow those big, beautiful, like super duper splitted leaves, like more split than this with like the inner holes, like a big one, I would love it. But as of right now, it is not having that life, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel on this one. It's undecided whether or not it's worth it. Like, half of me says yes and half of me says no. I don't know. Also, throughout this video, I'm definitely interested to hear on your takes on these plants, whether or not you think they are overrated or worth it, worth the hype. Especially for this one, because I feel like jury's still out on this one for me. And then we have the antherium warum. I have been lusting after this plant for years, and just seeing its beautiful big long antherium dark velvety veiny leaves online is everything I could possibly want in an antherium and more. And so I think I had this one on my wish list for a couple years before I was able to get my hands on one for a good price. I was very nervous about getting myself one of these because although they're gorgeous, I had heard that they can be a little bit more on the finicky side, and I didn't want to spend hundreds of pounds, which is what they were when I first saw them, on something that might die. So I waited a little bit, bode my time, and waited until I could get one that was a little bit more on the inexpensive side, and got myself this. Ooh. And while it is big and beautiful, and I love it, I am so happy to have this one in my collection, it has also been a bit of a mission to get this one to be happy. So one, it had flat mites, which I don't think is anything to do with it as a plant. It got pests and it dealt with it okay. This leaf was actually the main one to get the pests, and it is still doing really well. I have cut off the damage at the top of the leaf here. That was the majority of the pesty damage. But otherwise, this leaf is still looking pretty good, and since then it has put out a newer leaf without pests that's doing quite well. But I have found that this plant is incredibly thirsty. Like, I think I watered it a couple days ago, and it's already time to water it again. It just wants water constantly. So if you are gonna get a Cryome, I definitely think that's something to consider. They are extremely thirsty and apparently very, very hungry as well. People suggest that you fertilize them quite frequently because they really like that. And I think I found that as well, but I'm a bit weirder about the fertilizer because I do fertilize with every water in general all the time. So it doesn't really matter because I'm using liquid gold leaf, and with that you're not really at risk of root burning, so it's like a non-issue for me. I'm hoping that I can get this one to further grow well. Hopefully in time it will be able to. It's taking its sweet time on me. And I've never had it with more than 2 leaves. I would love to grow it one bigger. I mean, though it is already a pretty decent size, I'd like to grow it bigger. And 2, I'd like to get it out of the 2-leaf club. Not that I think antheriums normally have a 2-leaf club, but this one for me really has. So although I'd say it's worth the hype in terms of beauty, depending on your ability to water it and care for it, it might be on the less worth it side if you don't have the time to give it the sort of love and attention that it needs and desires, because it is so needy of a plant. But I'm so really glad I have it. So in my collection, it's worth it, but it might not be for everyone. This next plant, again, was so hyped, and I wanted one so badly. It is the Filadandrin Milano Cryome. And like, just look at these gorgeous, beautiful, dark, black, velvety, long leaves. Like, it's very similar to the antherium Cryome in that it's got that dark velvetyness, but it's in philodendron form, and it climbs instead of kind of just grows out of the pot. So I was here for the Milano Cryome. It had every aspect of a plant that I really wanted. I had so many struggles with my philodendron Milano Cryome that I just swore off of them completely. I have tried multiple plants of this one as well, and I could not get this thing to size up or grow well for me at all. At all. I had it in my cabinet, I grew it outside of my cabinet, I tried keeping it on a moss pole, not on a moss pole, and no matter what I did, the leaves were just unhappy and they would not size up and they would not come in healthily. I also found that they would like to stick within the caterpillar of the plant a little bit more, and so that was really annoying. They would not come out easily. Maybe that was a humidity issue on my part, but all of the other plants I had in my greenhouse cabinet were absolutely fine, so why wasn't this one? I don't know. And it was really annoying, but yeah, I struggled so much with my Milano Cryome. I also found that they were quite pest prone. I don't know why they were more pest prone than other things, but I think I had thrips on mine several times over, and maybe that was part of the issue with the leaf growing, but I just could not get them to grow nicely no matter what I tried. Since then, I have tried some Milano Cryome hybrids, and I think those do immensely better, like hugely better, and they still give you the Milano Cryome vibe. But the straight Milano Cryome, I feel like it has so many issues. Like, the genetics of the plant are just so not good in the ones that I got. Because obviously out there on the internet, people are able to grow them phenomenally, but I just cannot. And I could not figure out why, and it bugged me so bad. So I've sworn off them completely. I don't need a Milano Cryome, and I think they are overrated, even though they're gorgeous, and I would love to have one that looked that good in my home. I just can't. Next up, we have a cactus. We have the Booby Cactus, and this one has been on so many people's wish lists, I know, and it was on mine for ages. I always really wanted the famous Booby Cactus because it looks like little boobs, and who doesn't want a plant that looks like little boobs? I don't know, but apparently me and so many other people do. And so I was able to finally get my hands on one in this past year for a decent price, and I am obsessed. given. I have not had it for very, very long yet, and so I couldn't say how it lives in the long run. Ooh, and I think it needs a little bit of water. The boobs are a little bit wrinkly at the minute, but it's almost in a month, so it'll be time for me to water this one fairly soon. But I definitely think it is worth it so far. I have not really had any struggles with it. I'm watering it about once a month, which is plenty for a plant like this. And if you can get your hands on one of these, I highly recommend it because they are really cool and like super chill as plants. I do think that they are fairly slow growing. I might have had a little bit of growth on mine yet, but it is kind of hard to see with cacti and succulents their growth unless they're growing like exceptionally quickly, but I don't think this one does. So I guess I'll have to go back and look at pictures to see whether or not it has grown. I don't think it quite has yet, but maybe in the summertime it'll have done something and grown a little bit. 'Cause maybe I should just count the boobs. 8 boobs. It's 8 boobs tall. So we'll see if it gets to more than 8 boobs tall down the line. So I wouldn't say I'm undecided on this one. I do think that I love it completely, and I would say it's definitely worth the hype, and the influencing that got me to buy it was well placed, and I'm really glad that I do have it, and I love it. It's a cute little one. And then the last 2 plants I have are actually both Monsteras. The first one is the Monstera Dubia. So when I first saw the Monstera Dubia, I thought it was a bit weird. I didn't quite understand the whole shingling thing. Well, didn't think it was my vibe at all. But the more I saw pictures of it online, the more I wanted one. And eventually the pictures wore me down, and I decided that I wanted to get myself a Monstera Dubia. But I didn't want to pay for the price tag because, again, they were a bit more on the expensive side. So I got myself a cutting of one. And I think that's where I went wrong because it did nothing. Nothing. For literally years in a prop box, which is like the ideal environment for propagating plants. Like 100% humidity, always constantly moist. Very happy place for it. Nothing. Did absolutely nothing. Oh, for so long. And so I finally bit the bullet and decided to buy myself one. Let me pull it out. Actually, I didn't buy it. I was gifted it. Oh, we are wet. Give me 1 second. I need to dump this bucket of water out because it is soaking. Whoops. So that's the thing with moss poles, because I mostly water it from the top. I don't really ever take it out of its cash pot to see whether or not it is soaking. So yeah, that's a me problem. It's been sitting in water for a couple of days, but alas, it's doing fine. So I decided to get one for myself that was already an established plant, and I think that was the best thing I could possibly do for myself and Monstera Dubia. I think they just struggle to propagate. They don't propagate well from wet sticks. Even when I had one with leaves, it was struggling to propagate, and so buying one that was an actual plant was great for me. This one is actually a cutting from that. I have chopped and extended it since getting it originally, and have kind of started over with it because the one I got was on a plank, and I much prefer them on moss poles. And since then it has taken a step back in its leaf size. You can see that, but that is fairly normal. I did cut off half of the plant. But I do totally understand the hype now. Like the beautiful silvery leaves with patterns, shingling in there. It is just such a, like, look how flat it's trying to be against this pole. Like so much so that it's wrapped itself around. So weird and cool, and just an exciting little thing. And I'm really glad that I was able to figure it out, but I kind of think they're only worth the hype if you're buying them as an actual plant. When I tried them as propagations, it was an absolute no-go, unfortunately. But I do really love this one, and I'm hoping I can get it back to this big, beautiful leaf size and maybe get it to size up and grow fenestrations maybe. Like, have any of you seen Claire's Monstera Dubia? If you haven't, here it is. It's insane. Like, beautiful and insane in its growth. So big and beautiful and fenestrated. Like, it doesn't even look like a Monstera Dubia anymore, but I kind of love it. You can kind of have two. You can have one that's on the smaller side and shingling like this, and then one like that. It's kind of like having two different plants, but they're actually the same plant. I love it. So yeah, I do think they are worth the hype. But again, they do take a little bit of care. You do need to be quite careful with these moss poles, making sure they're staying moist and they're giving something to grow onto. Though actually, do they need to stay moist if sometimes they grow on a plank without the moisture? Maybe they would be fine just growing like straight on a dry moss pole, but I like to keep mine moist, and I figure that that's probably the best way to get it to grow better and size up. So I'm gonna be keeping mine on the moss pole, and yeah, I'd say they're worth the hype, because they are quite fun, but weird and exciting, and I do love it. Now my trousers are all wet. And the last plant that I'm going to be talking about is the Monstera Escaleto. And I was seeing these big, beautiful, holy, gigantic Adansonii vibe leaves online. And I was like, I need to have one of these. And at one point I was able to get one in a collaboration, and it was really beautiful to start. I loved it. It was stunning. And then it grew horrendously. Like, it immediately put out like this really long runner with absolutely no leaves on it. And I tried putting it on a pole and it still put out a runner. And so I decided to part with the main plant, but only after taking cuttings of the runner. And I just chucked those cuttings in a prop box for who knows how long, probably way too long. And I was finally able to get them to grow into a plant. This little guy here. But I still don't think that they are worth the hype. Like, I know mine is only just starting to grow fenestrated leaves now, but I feel like they are so picky, and they need almost like the perfect conditions in order to not just grow a long runner, that I don't think that they are worth the amount of effort needed to go into them in order for them to thrive, unfortunately. So much so that I'm actually planning on getting rid of this plant at some point. If anyone fancies an Escaleto, holler at your girl, and maybe we can work something out. Is this one also? This one's also sitting in water. Again, this little moss pole business. It's okay, this one doesn't sit in it as much because the pot it's in, it only goes to about there. So if there's water in the bottom, it's fine. But yeah, it's like, I don't care about them as much as I wanted to after seeing the pictures, because I found the pictures to be absolutely stunning. But in reality, the growth on them just does not, it doesn't work as well as I wanted it to. And so I was influenced, and the influencing was misplaced on me, unfortunately. I'm sure someone can grow them amazing, because there has to be someone who can grow them amazing, because there's people who post these pictures online and they're amazing in these pictures. But when I try and grow them, they just look like this, or like one long runner with no leaves at all. So I don't know. I don't think that they are for me in the end. So yeah, that is it. Those are the plants that I was influenced to buy, and whether or not I thought that they were worth it. And like I said before, let me know if you have been influenced to buy any sort of plants and whether or not they were worth it. Are they one of these? Are they other ones? Let me know. I am very curious because I find this stuff so interesting. It's like, being online is weird. But yeah, it's fun. It's great. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up down below and leave a comment on other houseplanty things you'd like me to talk about in the future, and subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will see you in the next one, and don't forget to keep growing. Bye!